Welcome Internet, Bread to Loaf here, coming at you with a quick segment. Today we are working on my 1988 Buick Electra Park Avenue. There she is. So as suggested in the title of the video, I was having a mysterious loud thumping sound coming from the front of my car. I could not ascertain where. I could not reproduce it 100% of the time, so I couldn't really figure out where it was coming from. It's been going on like this for months. So today, as I was doing a little bit of brake maintenance, just bleeding the brakes, checking them out, looking for pad wear, nothing unusual, I went to go put on the front tire onto this rotor and hub assembly here. And as I was tightening down the bolts to said tire over there, I noticed that there was a lot of play back and forth on this strut and this knuckle here. I'll post the video. It's kind of hard to see right here, but the whole control arm and knuckle were moving laterally, horizontal fashion, when the car was on the ground and I was attempting to torque down the lug nuts on the wheel. And this should not happen, obviously. I popped the cover up at the top of the hood area up here to check the bolts. They all look fine. That's when I realized that it was pivoting down below somewhere at the steering knuckle where it should not be. And I did a little bit of digging after I took the wheel back off, and lo and behold, down here, so here's the caliper, and here is my ball joint. So right here there are 3 bolts and nuts holding this lower control arm to this ball joint bracket. So what I discovered upon further inspection, so you can see the 3 bolts right here, what I discovered is that 2 of these finger loose. So see that right there? I should not be able to do that at all. I should not be able to even turn this. You should not be able to hear it rattle. And it is doing both. One over here is also, one of these is loose. But yeah, 2 out of 3 of these bolts holding the lower control arm to the ball joint bracket, they are incredibly loose. So this is what was causing the whole knuckle to pivot back and forth, because these bolts are not tight at all. So there you go, mystery solved. Literally, bolts on my suspension components are incredibly loose, and that's why when I was taking off from a standstill, like at a stoplight, and I accelerated, I heard a loud thump. You could feel it in the seat and in the steering wheel. Apparently that was the entire suspension components right here shifting from forward to a back position, sliding along these bolt holes here. So they may be egged out a little bit, but that's fine as long as we tighten them back down all the way. And we are going to thread lock these. So we're going to pull them out and then put some red thread locker on there. And hopefully that'll never happen again. So here we are back underneath the car, and there's your ball joint right there, and then these are the bolts and nuts in question. So these appear to be 18mm in my case. Again, this is a 1988 Buick, and there are 3 of them. Probably start with this loose one right here, take them to the wire wheel, and then we will shine them up, get them nice and clean, reinstall them with red thread locker, the high strength stuff, because we don't want these ever to come out again. And then we will snug them back down to 50 foot-pounds, the rated spec. So this is going to want to spin on the top, obviously, so get my wrench in there. Alright, so I got the loose nuts off, shine them up on the wire wheel there, and now we're going to be using some high strength thread locker. This is the red type from Permatex, and this is the non-removable type, which is what we want for this application. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some of this to the bolt threads. I did not want to take them out because I didn't really want to lose the position of this ball joint where it's set up, because that does affect part of your alignment, so I don't really want to mess with that. So I'm going to install these back in with thread locker and tighten them down to 50 foot-pounds. Alright, we're set to 50 foot-pounds. Alright, here is tightening up the first bolt to 50. You can see right there, we got it on 50 foot-pounds. So that one is nice and tight. And I'm going to go ahead and do that to the other nut. And we're going to make sure this third nut is at 50 as well. So this is basically all just temporary Anytime you mess with the bolts holding the ball joint to the lower control arm or any other suspension components, you really need a front end alignment if you're doing your front end. In the very near future, I will be going to an actual shop and getting this laser aligned, but for now this will just tighten everything back up and get it not so loose and wiggly anymore. And then we'll do the fine, precise alignment at a shop, and then they'll adjust the tie rod most likely, and they won't be touching this anyway. So go ahead and finish this up. So we're gonna go and splash a little bit of thread locker, and we're gonna thread that back on. First, we're gonna move this knuckle because it is in the way again. All right, we have access to that bolt again. So we're gonna go ahead, put this nut back on the bottom. It slides on nice and smooth, no longer rusty. And again, in my case, these nuts and bolts are 18 millimeter. There we go, 50 foot-pounds on that one. We'll check the third one and we'll call it good. Okay, and there we go. All 3 bolts have been tightened down to 50 foot-pounds as per my car manual. So there we go. All 3 have been torqued down and they should be good to go for a while. Like I said, I got red thread locker on them. So we're gonna go ahead and put this wheel back on, and we'll leave the hubcaps off because if we're gonna have them aligned, they're probably gonna take the wheels off for part of it, so we don't want them messing with them hubcaps. But put the wheel back on, drive to the shop, should be good to go. We'll see how bad the alignment is on the way there. My guess is gonna be pretty bad. Oh, and that's the third thing that tipped me off to this problem, was that my alignment was suddenly out of whack. It was perfect before, then all of a sudden the steering wheel was cocked to about a 15-degree angle. When the car was moving straight, I had to keep the wheel at about 15 degrees. And it wasn't like that before. So that, along with the clunking, thumping noise upon acceleration after a stoplight, and what I just saw now as I was putting the tire back on, all 3 of those indicated to me that there was a problem and that it was something to do with the suspension. So if you're having a similar issue or noise, I would highly suggest you check the bolts on your ball joint, your strut arm, or any other thing in that steering knuckle suspension part area. Hope it helped you fix a problem or learn something. And as always, thanks for watching. This is Bread the Loaf signing off.